Coach Josh Iverson. Head coach Dan Hamilton with assistants Andrew Murphy and John Lehman. Now, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the starting lineup for your BFA Bobwhites. This is Lieutenant Earl. Number 15, Will Hughes. Now, be pleased, rise, remove your hats, and face the flag for the playing for national anthem.
Good evening and welcome to Northwest Access TV's presentation of Franklin County Varsity Boys Basketball. My name is Bryce Batchelder, and tonight we are at Bellows Free Academy, St. Albans, as the Bobwhites host the visiting Mount Mansfield Union High School Cougars in the final game of the season for both teams, and one that is crucial for determining playoff seeding. Before we get to tonight's starting lineups, this live broadcast wouldn't be possible without our local sponsors. A huge thank you to Northwestern Rehab Services, Collins Pearly Sports and Fitness Center, Handy Toyota, Novus Glass, H&B Greenhouse and Nursery, Sticks and Stuff Swanton Lumber, and JC Image. If your business would like to join our incredible community of sponsors, contact Northwest Access TV at 802-782-8676. And here are the starters for this evening games. First, for the visiting Mount Mansfield Cougars, number 1, Jacob Lehman, number 10, Owen Pino, number 11, Dylan Hamilton, number 15, Aiden Johnston, and number 24, Josh Syverson. Cougars are coached by Dan Hamilton. And for the BFA Bobwhites, number 10, Noah Earl. As we get the first points of the game, scored by number 24, Josh Syverson, and the foul, he'll go to the line. No, they call it on the floor before the shot, so the Cougars will just take it out in the baseline. Foul on number 24, Seth Richards. That's his first, team's first. Seth Richards, obviously a starter, along with 22, Liam Horrigan, 15, Will Hughes, and 42, Reed Steigels. The Bobwhites are coached by Tristan Menard. Here's the playoff picture so far. BFA comes in with a record of 10-8. They are the number 6 seed right now. If the playoffs started tonight, they would host number 11, Mount Anthony. Mount Mansfield, on the other hand, record of 10-9. They are number 8. Three-pointer no good, rebounded by BFA. And if the playoffs started tonight, they would host number 9, Essex. Obviously, a couple of similar records. Will Hughes called for the travel. Bit of a slippery floor right in that spot, slid. But obviously both teams with very similar records, very close in the standings, so the outcome of this game will most certainly affect how both of these teams are seeded entering the Division I boys basketball playoffs. And we'll get the scoring started tonight. Number 15, Aiden Johnston with his first points. MMU with an early 2-0 lead, just over a minute gone by in the opening quarter. Drive is blocked by Aiden Johnston. Getting it done on both ends of the court on these two possessions. A good strong take by Will Hughes. Johnston just in good position for the block. Steigels back out to Hughes. Hughes dribbling it up top. Almost to the half court line. Gets it to Richards at the high post. A good find down to Richards on the low block. He muscles himself into position and gets BFA on the board for the evening. Early 2-2 tie, 6:20 left in the opening quarter. Pino setting up the offense for MMU. Open three, bounces off the iron for Owen Pino. Nice find from Earl to Richards, who slams it down. BFA now take an early 4-2 lead. 6 minutes left in the first quarter. That's the danger of those two paired together. Noah Earl with height and vision and handles to play that point spot. And Seth Richards with the height down low. Both with that connection to know where each other are on the floor. And to finish plays like that one that we just saw. MMU trying to respond. Pump fake. Baseline jumper is good for Dylan Hamilton. His first points of the evening. Game tied at 4. 2.5 gone by in the opening quarter. Another find for Richards. Richards was going to go up to dunk it. Switch to the layup at the last minute, but Aiden Johnston fouls Richards. Will send him to the line for the first free throws this evening. Richards misses the first. Richards misses both, but offensive rebound for Steigels. Credit that travel call to the tight defense of Jacob Lehman. Getting his hands up. Not letting BFA get a clear look on that pass. Pino. Now MMU in the corner. Passing the ball around the three-point line. BFA playing just a man-to-man defense. And that's going to be a fun matchup this evening. Syverson versus Richards, both with height. Richards going to step out for three and is good. Richards with all 7 points for BFA so far. The 7-6 lead. We should say MMU 6, Seth Richards 7. MMU with the ball around the outside. Pino thought about driving in, pulls it out instead. Hamilton looking around. Syverson was trying to call for it down in the block. Elbow jumper, no good for Johnston. Hourigan bringing the ball up, almost loses it. Able to keep possession, Richards. Richards just dominating this game so far for the Bobwhites, all 9 points. And get this, we are only halfway through the first quarter of this game. I would say the strategy for BFA is just keep going to Richards. Three-pointer, no good for Dylan Hamilton. Ball knocked out of bounds. It will stay Cougars basketball. Hamilton will inbound it for the Cougars. Syverson closely guarded by Richards. Weinstein now in the game for MMU. Lehman. Noah Earl not giving him a lot of space. Does get it to Weinstein. Weinstein stops at the top of the key. Noah Earl with the reach in from behind steal. Noah Earl gets a dunk of his own. The first player not named Seth Richards to score for the Bobwhites so far. Noah Earl with the slam gives BFA an 11-6 lead. 3 minutes left in the opening quarter. The drive by Hamilton. Pass picked off. Noah Earl, two-man game with Hughes. Wasn't able to cleanly get the pass back to Hughes. But the ball does stay with the Bobwhites. Bobwhites setting up in a box. And this inbounds play. You could tell that the first option on that one naturally was Richards. Wasn't open, so tossed the ball into the backcourt to Noah Earl. Steigel's gonna drive in, will be called for travel. Turnover to MMU. Brief stoppage. I think the officials are fixing the clock. They reset the game clock from 2:28 to 2:35. Weinstein bringing the ball up for the Cougars. Noah Earl meeting him at half court. Ball goes down low to Hamilton. Hamilton stuck there. Kicks it back out. Lehman gonna have to reset things for the Cougars. Hamilton goes to his left. Finds Lehman. Tough defense here from BFA. Content with letting MMU pass the ball around the outside, but not giving them any looks inside the lane. You can tell MMU is looking in there. Block by Liam Horrigan. Pushing the pace the other way, but good defense by Hamilton. Knocked the ball away from behind, but goes right back to BFA. Horrigan kicks it out. And now BFA will set up their half-court offense and slow things down for a moment. Minute and a half left in the first quarter. Richards takes it to the baseline. Tough to see over Syverson when Syverson is straight up with his hands. As high as he can take him. Earl with some handles. Drive to his left. They're gonna call an offensive foul on Noah Earl. Coach Menard arguing that the defender was still moving. There should have been a block instead, but the official gets the final word on that one, and it is indeed an offensive foul on Noah Earl. His first, team second. Under a minute to play here. A nice find to Lerner, who can't finish it. Noah Earl, an excellent find to Reed Steigels, who is fouled, will go to the line to shoot two. MMU foul on number 20, Zev Lerner, excuse me, his first, team second. Steigels misses the first. Seigels 0 for 2 from the line. 40 seconds to go in the first quarter. Syverson in the high post, kicks it back out to Pino. Pino looking around. Now the drive by Lehman. Lehman loses it. Ball is loose on the ground. And we'll get a jump ball possession. BFA with 25.7 seconds left in the first quarter. That's been exactly how BFA has been guarding MMU so far in this opening quarter. Content with letting MMU pass the ball around the three-point line, but really clogging the lane anytime MMU tries to cut across, not giving them any open passing attempts, any open looks. And when they drive in the lane, BFA is collapsing on the ball handler. BFA looking to score in this likely final possession of the quarter. Pump fake from Cutting. Passes it to Horrigan. Ball out of bounds off of MMU with 5.9 seconds to go in the quarter. Cutting inbounding the ball for the Bobwhites. Finds Horrigan. 4 seconds. Horrigan with the drive is off. Brady Cutting did get the shot off before the buzzer, but no good, and that will do it for the opening quarter. Bobwhites lead the Cougars 11-6. As we are in between quarters, this live broadcast wouldn't be possible without our local sponsors. A huge thank you to Northwestern Rehab Services, Collins Pearly Sports and Fitness Center, Handy Toyota, Novus Glass, H&B Greenhouse and Nursery, Sticks and Stuff, Swanton Lumber, and JC Image. If your business would like to join our incredible community of sponsors, contact Northwest Access TV at 802-782-8676. And just a reminder that Northwest Access TV is a nonprofit organization. If you're enjoying the sports coverage throughout the year, please consider making a donation. Just visit northwestaccess.tv/donation. And speaking of ways to get involved with the station, we are actively looking to fill a couple of open positions. First is a part-time videographer position, and the other is the position of treasurer on our board of directors. Both are great opportunities to give back to the community with a great organization. So please reach out to the staff at Northwest Access TV to learn more if you're interested. Starting the second quarter, BFA with the 11-6 lead on MMU. Player of the game so far certainly has to go to Seth Richards, who has scored 9 of BFA's 11 points. We got an offensive foul called on number 10, Owen Pino, for MMU. That'll be his first, team's third. But Seth Richards with 9 of BFA's 11 points. All 9 scored before the 4-minute mark of the first quarter. Noah Earl also chipping in 2. MMU so far, Hamilton, Johnston, and Syverson each with 2 apiece. Noah Earl nails the three-pointer. He has 5 points now. BFA opens up an 8-point lead. 14-6, 7.5 left in the second quarter. Again, in a game that will most certainly determine playoff seeding. The final game of the season for both teams. BFA with a 10-8 record, MMU with a 10-9 record. Will Hughes pushing the pace, little Euro step, and a nice touch off the glass. Gives BFA their first double-digit lead of the evening, now up 16-6, and MMU coach Dan Hamilton will call a timeout with 7:01 left in the second quarter. Will Hughes, the first Bobwhite not named Seth Richards or Noah Earl to score this evening. As I just mentioned, Richards with 9 points, and Earl after that three-pointer, now with 5. Meanwhile, MMU really struggling to find opportunities. BFA playing their defense perfectly, keeping the ball outside the three-point line and clogging the paint, not giving MMU open opportunities for a pass into the paint. And when they drive into the lane, knocking the ball away from the ball handler. Three-point attempt for Pino, no good. Helps that BFA has been running their fast breaks very well. To near perfection, but not that time, as Gabe Hourigan called for the travel. BFA continuing to play just a straight man-to-man defense. Pino on the right side looking around. Cross-court pass to Weinstein. Brading. MMU passing the ball around the three-point line. Pino gonna drive to his left. Splits the defenders. Owen Pino's first points of the game. MMU now trails 16-8. Noah Earl with the answer. Pull-up jumper, now has 7 points. But Pino's splitting those defenders on the last possession. Probably the most open look MMU has had all evening, that close to the basket. Down low into Lerner. And Lerner will draw a foul on BFA. Foul called on number 42, Reed Steigels. It's his first, team's third. We'll certainly say this for the game. The flow has been excellent. Just 3 fouls called on each team has really let the offenses flow, especially the fast breaks. Pino, no good. Offensive rebound and putback for Zev Lerner. Those are his first points. MMU now trails 10-18. Seth Richards going to be called for an offensive foul. And that will be his second personal. Team's fourth. So Coach Menard has a decision. And he will opt to have Seth Richards sit. Likely won't see him again until the third quarter with those 2 personals. Pino with the ball up top. Brading in the corner, looking around. Swings it the other direction. Pino gets it down low to Lerner. Lerner loses the ball, but called off of Gabe Hourigan. The officials with a quick chat. Now MMU will inbound the ball from the baseline. Into Lerner. Lerner with a nice post move, but not able to get it to fall. And MMU called for the loose ball foul on the rebound. Called on number 15, Aiden Johnston, as his second personal, team's fourth. 4:38 to go in the second quarter. MMU in a 3-2 zone, trying to disrupt BFA's offense a little bit, give them a different look. Steigels out to Earl. Earl with a pump fake. Tried to get it back down to Steigels, but MMU's defensive shift worked out that time. Knocks the ball away, forces the turnover, and it pays off on the other end too, as Dylan Hamilton the first MMU player with more than 2 points. MMU back within 6. Miscommunication. And Pino picks off the pass. Hamilton dribbling the ball. Up top, guarded by Harrigan. Now over to Pino. Pino with his back to Earl. Lerner stops at the foul line and kicks the ball back out. Down low to Johnston. MMU kind of prodding that foul line area, hoping something in the BFA defense will open up a bit. That time they had the open cut. The pass just a little bit behind Owen Brady. Just enough for BFA to get a hand on the ball and knock it out of bounds. And Coach Menard decides to play a little poker. Takes the risk of Seth Richards going back out on the floor with 2 personals. I suppose as MMU is closing the gap a little bit, certainly worth putting another scorer on the floor, but definitely going to have to play really smart defense to not draw a 3rd personal. Pino gonna pull back from 3, bounces off, but nearly offensive rebound, but Hamilton not able to hold on to it. Richards had to be careful of that off arm. Could have been called for offensive, but in that time, a block from Johnston on Steigel's attempt. Pino drives through the lane to his left. A nice take for Pino. Kept the ball moving. He now has 4 points. And MMU back within 4. Similar to last year's game here at BFA, where BFA built a large lead and MMU just slowly pecked away at it and made it interesting. They're doing the same here as Seth Richards gets to work on the block. Puts BFA back up by 6, 20-14. Seth Richards with 11 points. First player in the game in double digits. 2:01 left in the second quarter. Three-pointer up. No good for Hamilton. Hargan with a take, doesn't go. BFA crowd asking for a foul, not gonna get it. Now asking for a carry, not gonna get that one either. Officials now stopping to ask BFA's student section. BFA staff addressing the student section, asking them to keep it under control. And game resumes. Pino gonna drive, met by Richards, but shovels it over to Syverson. Syverson's shot is good. Syverson with 4 points. MMU trails 16-20, just under a minute and a half left in this first half. Richards asking for the ball, maybe just a little bit too close to Will Hughes to have a good pass at it. Noah Earl using that Richards screen, tries to find Richards on the roll. MMU sniffs that one out. Minute left in the second quarter. Noah Earl with the steal. Tried to bounce past that one through, but Aiden Johnston gets his hand on the ball and picks it off. MMU pushing the pace, certainly here. Dylan Hamilton looked like he had an open look at a layup. Decides to pass it, and the pass is broken up. Earl with a pump fake. He'll be called for a travel. Noah Earl doesn't like the call, but I must say I agree with it. It looked like his pivot foot toe did leave the floor just a little bit. Noah Earl guarding Pino just a little bit too closely. And that will be Noah Earl's second personal. Team's fifth, 34.2 seconds left in the second quarter. Pino gets a screen. Aiden Johnston called for the moving screen. Ball will head back BFA's direction. And that is Aiden Johnston's third personal. Team's fifth. Coach Hamilton decides to keep Johnston in for the remaining 25 seconds despite the 3 personal fouls. Richards over to Earl. Earl's floater just a little bit too short. MMU pushing the pace in the final 12 seconds. Waiting until about the 7-second mark to make their move. Pino gonna take a 3. It's off, gives BFA just a little bit of time to get a shot off at the end of the quarter. Doesn't fall regardless, and at the end of the first half, the Bobwhites lead the Cougars by a score of 20-16 before we send it to halftime. This live broadcast wouldn't be possible without our local sponsors. A huge thank you to Northwestern Rehab Services, Collins Pirelli Sports and Fitness Center, Handy Toyota, Novus Glass, H&B Greenhouse and Nursery, Sticks and Stuff, Swanton Lumber, and JC Image. If your business would like to join our incredible community of sponsors, contact Northwest Access TV at 802-782-8676. At halftime, once again, BFA up on MMU Cougars by a score of 20-16. We will be back in a few minutes with the start of the second half. Welcome back to BFA St. Albans for the second half of action between the BFA Bobwhites and the Mount Mansfield Cougars. I'm Bryce Batchelder, and lucky enough to join me for the second half, Ben Kaufman of the County Courier, deciding to put down the camera for a little bit and join us for this second half. So welcome, Ben, to the broadcast.
Thanks, Bryce. You look like you weren't having enough fun up here by yourself, so I wanted to
absolutely.
come join you.
Yeah, please come ruin my fun. That's great. No, thank you, Ben, for joining us. Before I actually get started here, this live broadcast wouldn't be possible without our local sponsors. A huge thank you to Northwestern Rehab Services, Collins Pearly Sports and Fitness Center, Handy Toyota, Novus Glass, H&B Greenhouse and Nursery, Sticks and Stuff Swanton Lumber, and JC Image. Some scoring leaders so far for that first half. It was the Seth Richards and Noah Earl show for BFA. Richards with 11 points, Noah Earl with 7. And the scoring really spread out for MMU on the other hand. Pino, Hamilton, and Syverson each with 4, and those are their leading scores. I've mentioned a couple observations I've had in the first half, but Ben, would love to know your thoughts on that first half and anything that you noticed.
Excellent first quarter. Little bit of a letdown in the second there for BFA. They were up 16-6 at one point, and then go into the half only up 4 points. So want to see a rebound, and do like seeing BFA get to the line this early here. That'd be a key for them. They're not always a great foul shooting team. They were in the recent win out for South Burlington. So getting to the line and knocking down those shots might be a key to getting through this one.
Well, as you mentioned, sometimes not a great free throw shooting team. Noah Earl misses the second free throw, but makes up for it with that three-pointer. So that is in some ways a 4-point play. Net 4 on that possession.
The really old-fashioned 4-point play.
The rarely old-fashioned 4-point play. Noah Earl now with 11 points, ties Seth Richards with leading scores in this game. Opens up an 8-point lead for BFA. But muscling his way in, Josh Syverson. That's been an interesting matchup so far against Seth Richards. Syverson, I think if they can get the ball down to him on that low post, Seth Richards in a little bit of, had 2 personal fouls in that first half. I think that's a way that they could potentially draw more on him.
Richards and Earl both with 2 fouls in the first half, and neither looked too pleased with their second foul calls. If I'm MMU, I want to go with both of those guys, see if we can't get them into an early third, and if nothing else, at least get them a little frustrated.
That MMU foul on number 24, Josh Syverson, that's his first, team second of the second half. And speaking of that second foul called on Noah Earl, those are the frustrating ones because it was completely preventable. He just put himself in that position of being too close to the MMU player and getting that call.
That particular foul, too, it looked a little light for me, but a couple seconds before, he'd been a little animated in protesting a travel call.
Absolutely.
And that was one where the referees didn't look too pleased with him. He gave them an opening, and they were all too happy to jump on and give him his second foul late in the first half.
That entry pass just wide of Josh Syverson and goes out of bounds. We'll be back to BFA possession.
And Bryce, can't overstate how important this game is for BFA. I talked to Coach Menard after the last game, and of course he said what a coach says. We'll go anywhere, we'll play anyone, we don't care about seeding. They should, and this game is really, really pivotal to that. BFA right now sitting in 6th place in the Division I rankings. Every team has a game or 2 left to go. And the difference between 6th and 7th, if you're BFA, is massive, because that would mean avoiding number 1 and 2, CVU and Rice, until a possible Final Four matchup. BFA's 0-4 against those top 2 teams. Only one game was particularly close, and it was months ago against Rice. So if they can avoid those 2 teams until possibly getting back to Patrick Jim for the first time since '96, that'd be huge. They've got to win tonight to do it.
Will Hughes misses the layup attempt. A nice find from Richards, though. But BFA gets that rebound. Steigel's not able to finish at the rim. Coming the other way is Lehman. Lehman passes it over to Pinot. And MMU will reset their offense. Blocked by Seth Richards. We mentioned that Syverson-Richards matchup. Once again, this time Richards gets the best of him.
And that does look like it's going to be a big key here in the second half. Neither team has looked great in transition if you rule out BFA's great dunks in the first quarter there. It hasn't been a great transition game for either team since. So
Steigels with the follow. His first points of the game, MVU up 26-18. And Ben, I agree with you. BFA's transition looked fantastic for the first 4 minutes of the game and has looked fairly lackluster since.
It sure did. Unfortunately for them, MMU's hasn't looked a whole lot better. And so I think those post matchups, not just Seth Richards, but also Reed Steigels getting going here for BFA is going to be big.
A wild take from Liam Harrigan. He'll be called for an offensive foul. That might be one of those player control fouls where the defender doesn't necessarily have to be completely still. The offensive player has to be out of control. And it certainly looked that way on that one. Liam Harrigan's first personal foul. That's the team's first of this second half. That's one thing I've loved about this game so far is that the refs are only calling fouls when they have to. They're really letting both of these teams play, and that's what everybody here wants to see. And because of that, the flow of the game has been excellent.
Yeah, it's been a great crew, and it is a nice pace to this game. Really happy to see that. And you talked about Liam Horgan. He's such a fun player to watch. I wrote in my last article that he had quite a few acrobatic baskets, and he does. He has one speed, and it is fast, and it does lead to some of those player control fouls. But I think Liam Horgan probably has to lead BFA both in charges that he's had and charges taken. So he gets those at both ends of the floor, trying to even it out for the Bobwhites. But he's looking for the and one every time the ball's in his hands. It's
a little Russell Westbrookian, shall we say, though he probably still has a better field goal percentage than Russell Westbrook. Three-pointer is in for Zev Lerner. He has 5 points. That brings MMU back within 5, trailing 26-21. And similar to last year when both of these teams met here at BFA, BFA built a big lead, and then MMU just kind of slowly climbed their way back into this game. Every time it sort of seems like BFA is finally going to get over the hump and put them away this game, MMU comes back and still keeps it interesting.
And this is a key few possessions here, because we talked about BFA had a 10-point lead in the first quarter. They let it mostly get away in the second, and they worked out to a nice lead here in the second, and already that's back down, or the third, that's already back down to 3 points.
Josh Syverson. Seth Richards, I think, had taken a little bit of a risk on, maybe there was some contact, but also a bit of a flop, and didn't get the benefit of the call. And so Syverson puts that in.
And I thought for a second we had a steal there for Liam Horgan. They called that a foul on him, so now he's up to 2 as well. There's still a quarter and a half to play. A little nervy for BFA.
Well, we're going to get a timeout called with 3:56 to go in the third quarter. BFA with a narrow lead, 26-23. I'll give you some points updates here. Noah Earl and Seth Richards leading all players in the game, each with 11. And for MMU, now we're starting to see some specific players kind of stand out with their scoring. Josh Syverson, namely, now with 8 points in the game. Ben, you had mentioned the playoff picture. This is just if the playoffs started tonight, this is what it would look like. BFA with a 10-8 record. They have the number 6 seed. And would host number 11, Mount Anthony. And MMU, 10-9, number 8 seed, would host number 9, Essex. If the playoffs started tonight.
That's correct. This game obviously going to make a big difference in there. Rutland, number 7, is finishing at Burlington, a 5-12 team currently. So a lot of chance for some movement in those areas.
MMU setting up their offense here, swinging around three-point line. BFA going to be called for a reach-in foul. We've called on number 10, Noah Earl, and that is his 3rd personal foul. Team's 3rd of the second half. Three-point attempt is good for Zev Lerner. Ties the ball game at 26. And Lerner with 8 points on the evening, coming off of the bench.
And Bryce, you talked about last year's game a little bit too. That's still a trademark for BFA. They're not a come-from-behind team at all. They get out to a nice start, but they cannot get into a deficit. They don't have a lot of sharpshooters from 3. They are not a great free throw shooting team. They do not want to be down 7 points heading into the final quarter.
3 minutes to go in the third quarter. MMU with the ball. Chance to take the first lead that they've had since it was 2-0 in this game. Drive in from Hamilton. Hamilton delivers for the Cougars at 6 points. MMU now leads 28-26.
And Isaac Grattan tried to step in there and take the charge. I think that's one you may see some officiating crews call, but you mentioned it earlier. These referees really want to let the players go, keep some flow to the game. And no call there and a Mount Mansfield lead.
MMU foul called on number 20, Zev Lerner. That's his second. Team's third of the second half. Steal by Owen Pino. Pino gonna take it himself baseline. That's a tough pass, but makes it through to Weinstein. Ball swings back up top.
Now Mansfield being very patient here. You can see that they feel the momentum is shifting in this one.
Dylan Hamilton gives MMU a 4-point lead, 30-26.
This is a pivotal 2 minutes here for BFA St. Albans again. They're not a spectacular come from behind team. And so they've got a minute and 55 seconds here. They can stay down 4, they can tie this back up, or they can be looking at an 8-point deficit, which, as we mentioned, doesn't just mean something for tonight. That might mean instead of facing Rice and Patrick Jim, that they're facing them at South Burlington.
Seth Richards quickly triple teamed down on the block. MMU gets the steal, but throws the ball away. Want to quickly apologize. We're having some technical issues with the audio. We apologize if it's distorted a little bit on the broadcast. I will openly and unabashedly just blame it on Ben Kaufman.
That's fair. I think things were going just fine for you until I offered to come up here and insert myself in what I'm sure was an adequate broadcast.
Well, it was all coming up, Bryce, until you put down the camera and decided to talk.
I wish I could say that was the first time I'd heard that. We'll hope it's coming through better
since
for you.
getting married? Since getting married?
No comment.
Smart man. BFA taking the ball out. A nice inbounds play into Liam Hargan. Good timing for his first points of the game. BFA trailing by 2, 28-30. This has been a huge swing in favor of MMU in this third quarter. Minute 15 seconds left. Hamilton's shot no good. Grattan pushing it up to Richards, a little bit too much on that pass. I think some things that we've kind of noticed in this third quarter, especially BFA turning the ball over a heck of a lot more than they did, especially in those first 4 minutes of the game when they built their big lead. Not necessarily forcing as many MMU turnovers, MMU taking much better care of the ball. And as soon as Seth Richards has been getting the ball, MMU has been double and triple teaming him, forcing him to make tough passes, which sometimes have led to steals.
Yeah, it does seem like they've started to figure out that piece of the puzzle. And if BFA wants to win this one and try to hang on to the 6th spot for the playoffs, it may need to come from somebody other than Seth Richards.
And Will Hughes, number 15, called for his first personal foul. Team's 5th. 51.1 seconds to go in the quarter. Jacob Lehman at the line to shoot 2. Misses the front end. Neither team has been shooting their free throws spectacularly this evening, and that
can be one side effect, too, of these referees really keeping their whistles quiet and not giving anyone a whole lot of free throws to get into a rhythm.
Lehman goes 1 for 2 from the line. Nice drive from Will Hughes. Not able to finish, but Seth Richards with the follow. Basket counts. He'll go to the line for one more.
Double team him all you want. That's a tough one to stop. And a really, really big play, not just scoreboard-wise, but momentum-wise, to kind of bring the crowd back to life here.
It's Ellen Pino's 3rd personal foul, team 6th. Richards could tie the ball game. Not able to.
BFA tried to get the offensive rebound, but not able to hold on to it. Ball was out of bounds. It'll be MMU possession.
Now that last basket by Seth Richards started with a really great drive from Will Hughes. He's been such a great story for BFA this season. Got off to a great start. He was phenomenal in that Rice game to get things going in that close right. Getting him back for that Essex game, which they won, was massive.
42.6 seconds remaining in the third quarter. BFA putting on a full court man-to-man press, which is about only as effective as aggressively that you want to play it. Drive in, strong drive from Seth Lerner, doesn't fall. BFA draws another Mount Mansfield foul. That will put BFA in the bonus. Mount Mansfield foul on number 4, Isaac Medina. That's his first. Team 7th, 24.3 seconds left in the third period. Liam Harrigan at the line for a 1-and-1. Liam Harrigan makes the first, earns himself the second free throw. More importantly, ties this ballgame at 31.
That's really big to see. We've talked about free throws quite a bit tonight again. It hasn't been BFA's biggest strong point this season. In their last game, a huge win over South Carolina. They were great for 20 and 26 in that one.
Harrigan makes both. Gives BFA a 32-31 lead. 20 seconds to go in the third quarter. And you're looking for the final shot. 10 seconds. But inside the runner, Seth Richards will start straight up defense. 3 seconds. Newman, pass it out to Lerner. Lerner for 3. Just bounces off the front iron. And at the end of 3, BFA.
Thank you all for your patience in resolving our audio issues. We essentially checked every wire.
It felt like a NASCAR pit stop to me, Bryce.
Checked every wire, every battery, every microphone on both the camera and over here at our table, but we've got it figured out. Props to Hunter, our on-site videographer, for helping us out here. But tight ball game in this fourth quarter. BFA with a narrow 34-33 lead. Didn't get to mention that Will Hughes, the scorer for BFA.
A quick basket for each team. This is absolutely anybody's ball game right now.
BFA had built a double-digit lead early in the first half, but MMU did not go away. Credit to MMU's tenacity for they easily could have just sort of rolled over, but they fought their way back into it, which tends to be the case when these two teams play.
Yeah, and MMU did have a big win over BFA earlier this season. Will Hughes was out for that game, I believe. That came during his absence. And Bryce, you've heard me talk about the possible playoff picture a lot tonight. That's because it's huge for BFA. This is a senior-heavy team. They have not been to a Division I Final Four since 1996. Haven't won a title since 1987. I wouldn't call them favorites by any stretch this year, but they've got a path, certainly, to make it to that Final Four. They can hang on to the 6th seed. They're likely either going to St. J or South Burlington, and those are a pair of teams they've beaten once this season. They split with both teams, and they wouldn't have to face CVU and Rice, two teams that BFA has been pretty helpless against until the unpredictable atmosphere of Patrick Jim in a Final Four. And if BFA can get there, this season is a massive success.
Absolutely, especially in Noah Earl and Seth Richards' senior seasons. If they're going to make a run, this year certainly looks like the best chance that they've had in a while.
Absolutely. Liam Horrigan as well. BFA does have some good underclassmen. Coach Menard has done a phenomenal job with the youth program.
Certainly has.
We saw that last week at the South Burlington game when he had them all out here to honor the 5th and 6th grade team at halftime and let the 7th and 8th grade team play a scrimmage in front of a really full, fun crowd. So there's a lot to look forward to in the coming years. But if BFA wants to break that 1996 drought of a Final Four, this is their best look for the immediate future right here.
BFA setting up their offense off of that MMU turnover. MMU still sticking with that 3-2 zone. Steigel's not able to finish the layup, but gets fouled. He'll go at the line. I will say MMU has been sort of switching between a man-to-man defense and that 3-2 zone. Most of the time when they've switched to that 3-2 and given BFA a different look, it has actually given BFA's offense some trouble. But that time, Seth Richards making the exact right read with Steigel's cutting behind the defense for the scoring opportunity. And that MMU foul on number 1, Jacob Lehman. That's his first, team's 9th. And
yeah, if you have great passing out of the post, you can break down just about any zone. And Seth Richards is an excellent passer. Reed Steigels as well. I think it's an underrated part of his game. So if BFA can connect on those passes, if MMU is switching to that zone, might be a long fourth quarter for the Cougars.
Well, both in being able to make the pass, but also for the cutter to be able to read the defense and know exactly where and when to cut to be open and ready for that pass. MMU trailing by 2.
I think we had a moving
called for an offensive
called
foul.
I think we had a moving screen there.
That's the second moving screen called on MMU so far this evening. That is Dylan Hamilton's second personal foul and does put BFA in the double bonus for the remainder of the game. 5:13 to go. BFA with a slim 35-33 lead in the final game for both of these teams, final regular season game, in one that the outcome will almost certainly determine their playoff seeding and who either team would host or travel to. In the case of MMU, certainly.
Yeah, you're talking about, so the teams 3 through 8 in the index points right now are separated by less than half of a point in average points, which is how they determine the playoff seeding. It's really tough to tell how much somebody might rise or fall without spending a few hours looking at the schedules, so I haven't done that. However, it stands to reason.
You call yourself a reporter.
It does stand to reason. BFA's got to win this game if they want to hang on to the 6th seed. If they don't, Mount Mansfield might be able to as much as catch them, or Rutland can sneak up. BFA could potentially fall out of a home playoff game if they don't find a way to win this one, or they could be looking at as high as a 6th seed. So a whole lot on the line, and in some other games around the state as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, BFA with a 10-8 record, MMU with a 10-9 record. two very evenly matched games that would lost my train of thought there, Ben.
I caught that, yeah.
Yeah.
No, you did it well.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm a professional.
I mentioned those teams currently ranked 3 through 8, separated by just a half an index point for the average, which is insane. All of those teams also have 10 or 11 wins right now, which is just insane to talk about the parity in Division I. Out of only 13 teams, you've got more than half of them with the same number of wins and almost identical index point averages.
Well, and that's actually what I was going to mention. Thanks for teeing that up for me. That, of course, the playoff rankings are not solely just based on what the team's overall record is. The index points have a lot to do with what teams you played and what teams you beat and what teams you lost to, the sort of the strength of your schedule a little bit.
And where you did it, because a win tonight for Mount Mansfield means more than a win tonight for BFA as far as what index points means, because it's a road win for them.
Seth Richards goes 1 for 2 from the line. BFA up by 3, just over 4.5 left in regulation. A nice drive from Dylan Hamilton puts him in double digits with 10 points, brings MMU within 1. Noah Earl decides not to use the screen. Gets some separation. Can't finish the layup. Steigels can't finish the layup. And here's an opportunity for MMU to take the lead once again. Drive from Hamilton. BFA's defense stops him. They have to push the ball back out.
You saw BFA do a really nice job on the offensive boards there. They're not a phenomenal rebounding team. They're not a poor rebounding team. But along with free throws and ball control, what's going to help dictate what happens in these next 4 minutes, BFA gives up a lot of offensive rebounds. And if they do that in the next 4 minutes and 7 seconds, they may be looking at a road playoff game to open, and they will certainly be looking at a trip to Chittenden County for a quarterfinal.
Which, giving up a lot of offensive rebounds, surprising given the size of Richards and Steigels. But that quick stoppage in play, looks like Aiden Johnston from MMU got hit in the eye. So quick injury timeout. Oh, a nice post move from Josh Syverson and up and under to the reverse layup. And Syverson gives MMU a 1-point lead. Richards throws the ball away, intercepted from Lehman. Lehman takes it into the lane, kicks it out to Pino. Closely guarded by Noah Earl. Pino uses the screen, and a wise timeout used by Coach Dan Hamilton to try to reset his offense.
Boy, that last basket by Syverson. Every coach in the state at any level needs to hold on, freeze that clip, and anytime you're instructing a young player to do their mic and drills and work on that footwork, that's exactly why. That was textbook.
Bill Lambier level post play.
Yes, but he kept his elbows to himself, so.
Fair. He's not playing against the Pistons, though. But quick, just a reminder, though, Northwest Access TV is a nonprofit organization. If you're enjoying the sports coverage throughout the year, please consider making a donation. Just visit northwestaccess.tv/donation. And if you would like to get involved with the station, we have a couple of opportunities for you to do so. We are actively looking to fill a couple of open positions. First is a part-time videographer. If you would like to learn how to use a camera and help us cover local events, from sports to local meetings and other fun parades and festivals and other events in the area, we would love for you to join us. And then the other is the treasurer position on our board of directors. I can say, as personally, as the vice president of the board of directors, we have a fantastic group of people who love this community, love the station, love to empower our staff, and just want to see our community served in terms of our media needs. So we'd love to see you, if you have a financial background or love local media, to join as our treasurer. Both are great opportunities. Please reach out to the staff at Northwest Access TV to learn more if interested.
You can also get involved simply by showing up at a game and just sitting down and picking up a headset without so much as saying hello to someone. That's one way to do it.
But sometimes you're punished by batteries running out. So might want to talk to us ahead of time.
You probably had enough battery for just the one headset to do the entire game.
You bring too much force, Ben, and it couldn't handle it. 3 minutes to go. Tight ball game. MMU up 37-36. Make that a 4-point game thanks to Dylan Hamilton's three-pointer. He leads MMU scores with 13. MMU now up 40-36. 2:45 to go in regulation.
That was a real dagger. BFA's response is going to be crucial. They don't even need to necessarily score on this possession, but it's got to be a strong possession.
Down low to Noah Earl. Ball almost tipped away, but Earl able to recover and keep possession. Looking around. Nice turn to his left. Avoids the block. And brings the Bobwhites back within 2. Noah Earl with 13 points on the evening. 2:18 to go. BFA trailing 38-40. Pino gonna take a 3. That one off the back iron. Seth Richards gets the rebound over his own man, Will Hughes.
We said they can't surrender offensive rebounds, and so if you have to knock down your own teammate to do it, that's what Seth Richards is going to do here.
There it is, Noah Earl. Got some space from Pino falling. Noah Earl finishes, ties this ball game at 40. Noah Earl with 15 points, now leading the Bobwhite scores. 1:45 to go.
Boy, this is fun, and you see on a night like tonight why there are 6 teams that either have 10 or 11 wins and are within half an index point of each other. Metro basketball, there's nothing like it.
Pino drives, is fouled, I believe, Liam Horrigan's reach in, though I think BFA might try to challenge that Horrigan got ball, but doesn't matter. Either way, Owen Pino is at the line to shoot 2. That also puts MMU in the bonus for the remaining minute 31 seconds. Pino makes the first. Pino only 5 points on the evening, so not doing a lot in terms of scoring, but he has certainly been running MMU's offense this entire game and has sort of sped them up when they've needed to be sped up and slowed them down when they've needed to be slowed down, and delivering from the free throw line, which is vitally important at the end of these close games.
Absolutely, you've heard us talk about it, you know, since I sat down. And you hear it on just about any basketball broadcast or anything like that. Free throws are gonna determine this game.
Richards ties this game at 42. He has 16 points, a minute 15 to go in regulation, in a game where playoff seeding is on the line for both of these teams. Pino going to his left, gonna step back 3. Just rattles out. Steigels muscles that rebound down for BFA. 1 minute to play.
Really nicely done by Steigels there to hold on to that.
Hughes trying to direct his team, calling for a couple screens between Richards and Steigels. Steigels stays still. Richards hands it off to Horrigan. Horrigan's shot no good. But wrestling on the floor.
Very fortunate there for BFA. Horrigan had the ball once. Tristan Menard was trying to call timeout. Nobody saw him. Horrigan wrestled the ball back again, and they finally got to that at that point.
And that's the thing, it was a loose ball. Nobody had grabbed it in any sort of meaningful possession, so it couldn't be called a jump ball. It was just sort of a rugby match, for lack of a better term, for a bit. But good timing, Tristan Menard getting that timeout call to preserve the possession. The jump ball still would have gone BFA's way, but the big thing now is that if there is another jump ball down the stretch, BFA still has possession going to them thanks to that timeout.
You're right. You make a great point that, yeah, maybe the referees did see Tristan calling for it initially. You've got to be darn sure as an official that the player has possession before you grant his team a timeout.
Absolutely. You bring up a great point. A coach can yell timeout all they want, but if their team doesn't have possession of the ball, that timeout won't be granted.
Even if you jump about 3 feet off the ground like Tristan was doing there.
Ball game tied at 42, 38.4 seconds remaining. Liam Horrigan with the ball on the right side, closely guarded by Hamilton. Hughes now. Noah Earl trying to cut down into the lane. Well defended by MMU, 22 seconds. BFA content to run this clock down, try to save themselves for one shot. Likely will try to start pushing the ball around that 6, 7, or 8 second mark. Richards at the high post. 8 seconds, 7 seconds now. Noah Earl uses the screen, stumbles, able to keep the ball. I think Tristan Menard able to get another timeout in with 3.5 seconds, though MMU coaching staff initially asking for a travel. The call is timeout. BFA saves their possession.
It sure looked from here, and of course the officials are closer than us, that That was a trip before it was a travel. If you're going to call anything there, but in these last 20 seconds or so, can we call Tristan Menard the MVP of this game? Is that?
He has certainly had those two very heads-up timeout calls. But, I mean, that is certainly one of your functions as a head coach. You have to know the situation, when to call timeouts, when not to call timeouts, and he got those two on the nose perfectly.
And it's been some good fortune both plays happened right in front of him, right
Absolutely.
in front of his bench, that he's not shouting across the court.
Right.
And I like that last stretch from BFA. Certainly don't want to give Mount Mansfield another shot in regulation. I would like to see a shot a little bit sooner. If you put one up, maybe an elbow jump or something along those lines with 6 or 7 seconds left, you're going to get the second chance point, and barring a silly foul, Mount Mansfield's not going to get a shot unless it's three-quarters court.
Well, I am reminded of a few years ago, a BFA girls game against St. J Academy, where it was a tie game with about 15 seconds to go, BFA with possession. Kelly Lagis drove down the lane at about that 7 or 8 second mark, made the layup, put BFA up by 2, but St. J quickly inbounded the ball and beat everybody down the floor to put in a layup at the buzzer to send the game to overtime.
There won't be a second chance here.
Yep, BFA doesn't want to give MMU any sort of life here. 3.5 seconds to go. Let's see what BFA calls up into Richards. Loses the ball out of bounds. Still BFA ball, but 0.6 remaining on the clock.
That was one pass too many because, boy, the Richards to Hughes give and go by itself was perfect. But
Absolutely.
I think it was one too much.
Essentially enough time for BFA to sort of tap in. Tristan Menard yelling for the timeout. I think the question now is, will the officials give it to him before the ball was inbounded? They will. They reset the clock to 0.6.
I think you have to there. I don't. Clearly, he was calling that before. But you're right. There's just enough time for a little bit of a handle. You cannot catch and set and shoot.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be quite a volleyball tap.
I believe the NBA determines it's the 0.3 second mark where it has to be a tip-in because it's physically impossible to catch and shoot in 0.3 seconds. But anything above that, there is time. Granted, those are professional basketball players, a little bit more challenging, even as talented as these high school teams are, to catch and shoot that quickly.
And a little more challenging for the officials who, again, have been fantastic tonight. But our scoreboards don't light up red.
There's no video review.
There is no video review.
Thank goodness.
This is yeah, absolutely. This is a tougher call. I'm finding a way to get the ball to Seth Richards where he's catching it high and doesn't have to come down with it here.
0.6 seconds remaining. Will Hughes going to inbound the ball for the Bobwhites. The Bobwhites stacked on that left side. Gets up to Richards. Richards going to throw it in. Called for an offensive foul.
Boy, I couldn't see that well enough. I was looking for the ball to come to Richards right where it did. But that's a bad time to take a foul if you're BFA.
The heave from Pino is wide to the right, and that means the final game of the year of the regular season for both teams that will determine playoff seeding. Naturally, we are going to overtime.
It just a great Metro League battle here. This is what we were missing in BFA for so many years when they were playing in the Lake League against certainly some smaller schools, some weaker competition. They were running through that league schedule, and they were getting a high seed, getting to the playoffs, and then a team like MMU would come here and blow them away. To see these battles all season long, from that Rice game early on right through to tonight, to have this here back in St. Albans, what more could you ask for?
Absolutely. We'll give you some of the scoring leaders for this game so far. Seth Richards leading all players in the game with 16 points. Reminder, 9 of those 16 came within the first 4 minutes of the game. Noah Earl with 15 points. And for Mount Mansfield, Dylan Hamilton leading his team with 13, and Josh Syverson with 10. Zev Lerner throwing in 8, and Zev Lerner also with one of the biggest three-pointers of the game for MMU that eventually tied it for them.
Yeah, a couple of key free throws, too, from Owen Pinard. Again, what more can you ask for here? If you're BFA, you want to get to the line. We've repeated it plenty of times. We won't rehash the standings and the million possible playoff outcomes, but there are a lot of eyes in the state of Vermont right now watching this very intently for their own playoff fortunes.
The foul situation, Noah Earl Liam Harrigan and Seth Richards each with 3 personal fouls, and for MMU, Aiden Johnston, Aiden Johnston and Owen Pino with 3 personals. We start overtime with BFA in possession. Noah Earl dribbling up at the top of the key, hands it off to Harrigan. Harrigan back to Earl. Seth Richards calling for the ball down low. Harrigan now on the right side, drives to his left. Gonna try to put up a scooping layup, doesn't go. Seth Richards got the offensive rebound, but perfect guarding position for Zev Lerner.
That really was, and I saw some looks around the stands, people wanting the over-the-back call. That isn't really a thing. That was well defended.
And partially it's because Seth Richards was boxing him out, and it just happened to put Lerner in the perfect position to block that shot. So MMU now with their first possession of overtime. Still tied, 42-42. Seth Richards falls to the ground. Gets up to block Syverson, but called with the body.
And the body may be the right call there. If you were looking hand-to-hand, that was all ball, but he was getting up. His momentum did pull him forward a little bit, and I don't think that was a bad call.
And that's the thing, the benefit of the doubt to these officials who have overall been very good tonight. It's most of the crowd is looking up top at the ball. The officials are looking at the whole picture, and they see the body contact as Syverson delivers the first free throw from the line to give MMU a 1-point lead, 43-42.
And we've said that free throws are going to decide this game. We've known that for a few minutes now. That's still the case here in overtime.
Syverson goes 1 for 2. Seth Richards gets the rebound. Seth Richards now playing with 4 personal fouls, so he's going to have to be extremely careful the rest of this overtime. Harrigan flying in, followed by Steigels. 5 points on the night. Gives BFA a 1-point lead back.
Huge to answer that 1 point from Mount Mansfield so quickly and to retake the lead there.
Pino gonna drive to his left. He'll take it himself. Missed the layup, but foul called on Reed Steigels.
These free throws, again, so important, especially in overtime where it's just 4 minutes. It's a little more of a chess match than the checkers of the first 4 quarters. Not only is it less time, but generally teams are in the bonus, like we have both teams in the double here, and it does slow things down a little bit. It's a chess match right now.
So it's the 3rd personal foul for Reed Steigels. Owen Pino delivers the first free throw, so that puts MMU in the double bonus. So both teams now in the double bonus for the rest of this game, whether it's just this one overtime period or if we are lucky enough to have more. Pino misses the second. Tie ball game at 44. Will Hughes dribbling the ball up for the Bobwhites. Gets the Seth Richards screen. Gonna pull up from 3. Hughes with a huge 3-pointer.
That is a gutsy shot at this point in the game. And it looked like Richards, who had set that screen, was almost waving him on, saying, come on, Will, you can hit this. And he sure did.
BFA up 47-44, 2 minutes, 20 seconds left in the first overtime. Hamilton drives to his left, stopped, back out to Pino. Pino drives, Noah Earl knocks the ball away from behind. Seth Richards tried to save. Richards hit his head on the stage.
Good to see that Richards seems fine, because that was a scary crash.
That was.
Well, he actually saved the ball. It just unfortunately went to
we are
Mansfield.
Sitting on the stage and felt it in our seats. But regardless, the ball went straight back to Pino. Pino scores. So now it's 47-46. This is sort of one of those, despite the great effort by Richards trying to save that ball, that's one of those don't save it underneath your own basket situations. Still, we're glad Richards is okay, and he did. That was a heck of an effort.
And that was the right call there. I know the referees have let a lot go, but that was a blatant push. And I don't care if it's 1:45 left in overtime or not. That was a foul.
Called on Josh Syverson. That's his 2nd personal. So Seth Richards at the line for 2 free throws.
And I want to just back up to that gutsy Will Hughes shot. So great to see it again. Hughes is such an instrumental part of this BFA team. He had a phenomenal game when BFA nearly upended Rice early in the season. They lost him early in their first game against CVU. Just got him back a couple of weeks ago, and it's like he never left, but he's such an important part of this team.
Seth Richards hits the first free throw. Goes 2 for 2 from the line. Perfect timing to do so. I think BFA's first 2 for 2 trip all night. Seth Richards with 18 points gives BFA a 3-point lead up 49-46 with 1:46 to go in overtime, but still only a 1-possession game. And in the scheme of overtime, still plenty of time left.
Absolutely.
For MMU.
And certainly with the foul trouble and both teams being in the double bonus, 1 minute and 46 seconds is an eternity. And if you don't believe me, you can ask my wife, who often walks into the room while I'm watching a game and says how much time is left. And she has learned by now what 1 minute and 46 seconds means.
I think our wives would have a lot to talk about, Ben. A lot in common.
She is here tonight. I hope that she's not in any rush to get out of here. But again, at least she knows what she's getting into now.
I will just say my wife has thoroughly enjoyed the NBA All-Star break. But my Orlando Magic returned to action tonight. So she's kind of stuck with it once again. But we're here at, I'm sure, a much more exciting game with playoff seeding on the line, as we've mentioned a whole lot of times so far. Coming out of the timeout, 1:46 left in this first overtime. BFA leading narrowly, 49-46.
And I know, Isaiah, we mentioned it with good reason, because the gap between 1 and 2 and 3 through everyone else in Division I this year is pretty massive. Rice and CVU are clearly head and shoulders above the rest, so the longer you can avoid those two, the better.
Lehman dribbling the ball up for MMU, gives it over to Pino. Into the corner to Dylan Hamilton. Hamilton looking around, finds Syverson up at the free throw line. So back to Hamilton. Hamilton finds Syverson on the roll. Pass was a little bit too far, but Noah Earl, as he was trying to gather the ball, had a toe on the line, so it will remain Cougar basketball.
And I think that would have been out on BFA anyway. Seth Richards got a hand on that.
He
did
did
a nice job to interfere with that pass without fouling or pushing off.
Hamilton goes down low to Lerner. Lerner back up to Syverson. Syverson's shot bounces off the rim. Steigels with the rebound. And Jacob Lehman fouls Steigels. That's Semi looks like he had planned to foul. Interesting that MMU may be starting the foul game this early in a 1-possession game. But even though Seth Richards went 2 for 2 from the line the last trip, that's sort of been the outlier. That's been the exception to the rule for BFA's free throw shooting. So possibly Coach Hamilton could be strategically putting BFA at the line to force some of those misses.
They may even have a short list. Steigels, not a bad free throw shooter, but not somebody who's shot a lot in any form tonight. So
Steigels is the first.
That one's beautiful, but I almost wonder if Mount Mansfield's directive was not to foul anybody, but maybe a couple of players on the court who have not been as involved in the offense tonight, and may have backfired if that was their plan to send Steigels to the line.
Steigels makes it a 2-possession game. BFA up 50-46 with 1:17 to go. Steigels misses the first, gets his own rebound. There's a back up to Noah Earl. Noah Earl wisely slows it down. Coach Menard telling them to hold. And now MMU is going to start looking to foul. Down by 4 with 1 minute left.
And that's
and there
not
it
who you
is.
want to foul. But they simply couldn't wait any longer. I don't know if BFA's protesting for an intentional foul there, but if they are, they're a little optimistic.
Well, it seemed like Jacob Lehman might also have been sort of pointing at Coach Menard. Maybe Menard a little bit too close to the court, somewhat interfering in the play a little bit. But either way, foul called on Jacob Lehman, and that is his 3rd personal. Noah Earl at the line to shoot 2. Hits the first.
And I just want to talk about, for the last couple minutes of the 4th quarter and through this overtime, how incredible Reed Steigels has been on the boards.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, you expect Seth Richards to have big nights, pulling down rebounds. Reed Steigels, more of a two-way post guy, but he has been phenomenal in the last few minutes, pulling down every rebound that he's had a chance at.
Noah Earl goes 2 for 2. BFA up by 6, 52-46. Pino gonna pull up for a baseline jumper, hits it. What a shot by Owen Pino. Puts him in double digits with 11 points.
don't know how much better you can defend that if you're Noah Earl.
That was just a heck of a shot, but pulls MMU within 4, 52-48, 42.7 seconds to go, but still a 2-possession game. So this is probably enough time if you're MMU, probably put on a full court press.
Yeah, you're absolutely you're absolutely looking for the steal right here, and you do not have to foul right away.
Exactly.
I would say especially if it's Noah Earl who gets the ball. There's not a lot of great options to foul if you're Mount Mansfield. BFA's got some good shooters on the floor right now, but you can try to get that steal, and then if it goes to Noah Earl, you can try to force him to give the ball up. And then at that point, you're probably getting really close to next man to touch it has to go to the line. Yeah,
I mean, essentially, steal is the first option, especially in that backcourt if you're putting on a full court press. Once they get over that half-court line is when you have to seriously start thinking about fouling, depending on who gets the ball, as you were saying.
It's been better in the last few quarters, but if I'm Mount Mansfield, I'm telling my team, remember how panicked BFA got in the second quarter and how poorly they took care of the ball then? Make them feel that frustration again right now.
42.7 seconds to go in the overtime period. BFA up 52-48. BFA with a 10-8 record, MMU with a 10-9 record. MMU with an excellent full court press. Eventually gets that ball into Will Hughes, who was fouled right at the half-court line. But that was one of those wide receiver in the slot,
that is a
just over the middle.
Heck of a foul by Mount Mansfield, because that ball was going to Reed Steigels, and he's going to shoot it at that point because it's an uncontested layup. That was a heck of a job getting a foul on Will Hughes and making sure it wasn't an intentional foul.
MMU foul on number 20, Zev Lerner. That's his 4th personal. Will Hughes misses the first.
BFA had some trouble getting the ball in on that inbound. Do we know what they have left for timeouts, Bryce? Because they have had to call quite a few in the second half.
I do not.
Could be interesting to see if they have similar struggles inbounding again.
Hughes goes 1 for 2 from the line. BFA with a 5-point lead, 2-possession game. MMU gonna pull up from 3. Dylan Hamilton, that's off. Seth Richards gets the rebound, quickly pass it up to Hughes, who is fouled by Jacob Lehman, and that should be his 4th personal.
Again, really nice rebounding here by BFA. Some of the best I've seen from them this season, and they're doing it at the most pivotal time. But Reed Steigels and Seth Richards in the last 6 or 7 minutes of gameplay have pulled down anything they even remotely had a chance at.
Will Hughes hits the first free throw. But this game really marked by both teams refusing to roll over, and both of them have been trailing during the game. MMU had the biggest deficit to overcome, but neither team gave up, and they both just clawed their way back into it. Hamilton's floater, a little too strong and no good.
Yeah, just a little bad luck there for BFA. Noah got a hand on the ball and nobody could break for it. It just landed a little bit on the line. Nothing BFA could do to keep that, but they're in great position here.
6 points is the difference, 21 seconds. Syverson gonna have to go a little bit faster. Pino gonna pull up corner 3. Too strong. Follow by Lerner, no good.
And Richards again with the rebound that may seal it here.
1 free throw here on this trip will make it a 3-possession game. And that is the 5th personal foul for Jacob Lehman. So he will go to the bench, and Adam Weinstein will check in for him.
BFA doing exactly what you need right now with this margin. Whatever Seth Richards does from the line here, let Mount Mansfield come up and shoot. If you stand perfectly still for the next 10 seconds, you're going to win this game.
Richards misses the first. Still a 2-possession game.
Yeah, I guess 1 more free throw wouldn't hurt, huh?
Give him a little more breathing room. And Richards makes the second.
That should do it. Just no fouls here if you're BFA. You don't need to even be near anyone.
7-point game, final 6 seconds. 3 is good from Dylan Hamilton. And BFA just throws the ball in, and they will win it. 55-51 in overtime.
Really gritty win there for BFA. They get a couple straight to close out the season, head into the playoffs with some momentum, but it's just a gritty win. They watched a big lead evaporate. They went behind by a little bit. This team looks playoff ready to me.
Before we send it away, this live broadcast wouldn't be possible without our local sponsors. A huge thank you to Northwestern Rehab Services, Collins Pearly Sports and Fitness Center, Handy Toyota, Novus Glass, H&B Greenhouse and Nursery, Sticks and Stuff, Swanton Lumber, and JC Image. If your business would like to join our incredible community of sponsors, contact Northwest Access TV at 802-782-8676. And just a reminder, the Northwest Access TV is a nonprofit organization. If you're enjoying the sports coverage throughout the year, please consider making a donation. Just visit northwestaccess.tv/donation. And keep in mind our couple of open positions, part-time videographer and the treasurer on our board of directors. If you're interested, please contact us. We'd love to talk to you. Some final scoring stats here for the evening. Seth Richards leading all players in the game with 19. Noah Earl with 17 and Will Hughes with 9. And for MMU, Dylan Hamilton led his team with 16 and Josh Syverson and Owen Pino with 11. Once again, BFA wins this one, 55-51. We'll have to wait and see tomorrow what that means for the playoff seeding. But I'm Bryce Batchelder along with Ben Kaufman. Ben, thank you for jumping on with us in this second half.
Thank you, Bryce.
We want to thank you all for watching us on Northwest Access TV, and we will see you in the playoffs.